Well, what we got here is some of my diagnostics kit. Snap-on Modus is what I use 99% of the time when I'm out in the field and I'm trying to find faults with cars. Let's turn her on. She has been on charge. Get the screen better into focus. Let her boot up. That screen isn't always easy to see when you're in the daylight. So sometimes when you're out on the field and you've got the sunlight in the car and you're trying to read it and you've got the scope on, it can be really hard to read the screen. It probably doesn't show up very well on the camera, but let's go into the scope and I'll show you what I mean. Let's pick lab scope, let's go 4-channel. Okay, so there's the lab scope. And looking at the camera, to be honest, what you're seeing is what I see when I'm out in the field. It's not amazingly bright. It's okay when you've got no sunlight and there's no reflections on it. It's a great screen. But the moment you've got some reflection on these LCD screens, oh, they are a nightmare. So when I'm at home, I've got no problems because I always plug the Modus into one of the computer screens in the workshop and I work off the computer screen, but it's a pain in the neck when you're out in the field. So I've been thinking for a long time now, I need to have a screen with me when I'm out in the field. And I've been looking, I thought I'd just go and buy a 12-volt screen, but they're extortionately expensive. So, but I also fly drones, and we fly first-person view, and I fly off an iPad, which is great. And again, I suffer with the same problem. Reflections on the screen, and then you can lose the helicopter. So I got myself thinking, I thought, I want to combine a screen that I can run either 240 volts if I've got the availability of power, or 12 volts if I'm out in the field and I've got the power off a vehicle. So I'm going to move the Modus and I'm going to open the case. Zoom out a little bit and unhook. So that's my setup. In there I've got a 19-inch Samsung screen and a 600 watt 12 volt to 240 inverter. I don't actually need 600 watts to power this screen. I only need 100, but I've got the option now. I can use this inverter for charging the laptop up, powering the laptop, charging the iPads up, the iPhones, whatever. I've got other options and other things I can do with the inverter. I'm going to hook it all up now and I'll show you how I'm going to use it. I'm just going to turn the camera off whilst I do it. Because I don't know if you've noticed, I do have a cast on my arm and I'm trying to do everything one-handed at the moment, so let's fire this screen up in its box, because I've only just built this. Let's pull it down, I'll show you. We've picked up on the 4 screw mounting bolts in the back of the screen. This screen happens to be 75mm spacing, so yeah, I just made myself a little jig off the back of the screen where the holes were. I actually used the lid off a food container that I got from a takeaway, because I could see through it and mark the holes, and then I was just a matter of dropping it in, measuring my distances across there. I just went centre to centre, got that right, got the same measurement that side, same here, so I've got the screen mounted in the middle. So I'm going to turn it off now. I'm going to connect it to the Modus, and I'll show you how much better it is. Alright, it's the first time this screen's been fired up in the box. It has been connected to the Modus before, so I know it does work. It was connected up in the workshop, but we've got another screen in the workshop now. So I'm going to turn all the power on. And at the moment it is connected to 240 volts, because I haven't got 12 volt battery with me at the moment. But that wasn't the idea. The idea was to use it in the car out in the field and use the vehicle to power things up. So the screen's on. Let's power the Modus up. And on comes the Modus screen, and on comes the screen. Slightly get the camera in a better position. Yeah. That is so much easier to work with when you're out in the field. It's so much nicer to read. Let's compare the Modus screen. You can read it, but it's nowhere near as nice to read as that. Let's get out of this. And you can see how much easier it is to work with the large screen. Modus is still accessible. It's a lot better than trying to work off that little screen on the Modus. Especially when you're trying to use the scope. Let's load the scope up. Let's compare the screens on the Modus and the screen that I'm going to be working on. The Modus screen is good, but that is better. So, as I say, I've got the option of powering this up on 240 volt in the box, or powering it off the inverter when I've only got the power supply off the car I'm working on. But either way, I've got an absolutely cracking screen to work off. which makes a lot of difference. Let's pull some data up that I've downloaded. See how much easier it is to read the display compared to trying to read that when you're out in the field. This was the readout. I was trying to find a bad armature on a brushless motor. Let's stop that. Oh, wrong button. Wrong button. I want to leave my cursors on. I want to review it. I want to manual it. Let's bring it across. And you can see the dropouts in the bad motor. There's one here. That's a bad armature. There's another bad one there. And these were motors off one of my drones, and one of the motors had been playing up. It was a bit unstable, so we just did a DC volts average at 2 volts on the motor, and these were the results. But I was doing that out in the field, but as you can see now, I've got a decent screen to read my results off. Just thought I'd share that with you. Might give you an idea. You might want to try it yourself. And if you're wondering how you connect the modus up to your screen, there's a rubber plug down here which Snap-on don't cut out for you. But if you take this off, you can cut it out and you can use your lead off your screen into the modus at the bottom, and this is the result you get. See, big screen, where you can actually see a lot of detail, and the modus screen. Modus screen, as I say, it's totally workable, but it's so much nicer to have a big screen. And you might not miss something with the big screen, so there you go. Give it a go. Didn't cost a lot of money, just a bit of time. Enjoy.